Welcome to another episode of Art's Place, conservative talk from a different view. We've got a great show today. Lloyd and we're going to discuss some fake news coming out of the Philippines about President Duterte's orders to shoot to kill anybody who breaks quarantine. We're going to give you the facts on what that's all about. And then we're going to talk about a there's a fishing channel that I follow, and I think this host gets it all wrong about conservation, especially when it comes to the Republican Party. So we'll talk about that. What? Oh yeah, and then Nancy Pelosi is on another witch hunt again. So we'll probably start off with that and follow on with the rest of the topics. And hopefully, we'll have conservative comedian Steve McGrew with us in a little bit. I sent him a link to the live stream. He's been on my other channel, Art Code Drone Solutions, when I did a, a day show, kind of a comedian special. So hopefully we'll have him on a little later. Jaybird, welcome to the show. Let's bring in my co-host, the effervescent, bubbly Lloyd Mendenhall. And let me unmute you. There we go.
Hey.
Hey,
There we go.
welcome to the
All right.
show. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing good. I'm staying inside and out of trouble. Let me see where we at. There's StreamYards. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, just we finally put ourselves on full lockdown
right.
uh about 3 4 days ago. It's just I was going out and doing the shopping, but my kids said, it's getting into that critical time. And of course, I was going out masked and I was, hand sanitizing left and right and all that stuff. But it just got to the point where I thought, I'm just not going to push it any further.
Right, right.
And we started having a few more cases in Oklahoma. So it was, and we have some in our county now and the next county over. So, but we haven't had any deaths in our county or the
Oh,
next
thanks.
county. We've only had 4 in the state as of yesterday. I haven't looked
Oh,
today.
that's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
So we're doing relatively well here, but everybody here is uh, pretty much following the rules. Because
Right,
we got so many healthcare workers and hospitals, and we have a couple of big universities in the state, and we have 2 VA hospitals. And good Lord, they started doing their stuff 4 weeks ago. Well,
right.
whenever it was, I went to the hospital and I posted that they were already using protocol then, and so and we've delayed all of Judy's test for 30 days out, and
Right,
her doctor sent us a message and says we want to reschedule you in June.
right. Okay.
So
Well, here are the numbers for Colorado. We have uh, 4,565 confirmed cases, 875 hospitalized, and this is in 54 counties. So, not all of the counties here in Colorado have uh, COVID 19. 23,900 people have been tested, and 126 deaths, and 30 outbreaks at residential and non hospital healthcare facilities.
yeah, I just looked up. We have 1,252 in-state positive cases, 2 out of state. So I don't know if those are 2 people that are Oklahoma's in another
Right,
state. And but we've had a total of 1,401 test negative, and we've only had 330 hospitalized so far,
right.
and 46 deaths.
Okay. Well, I
And
want to say welcome to Steve Carpenter, Carlos back from the skies here, and then we have Drone Life RC. Welcome, everybody. I think part of the reason why Denver, or more like Colorado's had more cases than the surrounding states is because, well, you got to remember, we have an international airport here. And a lot of the people that have brought the COVID 19 here were tourists that have come back from affected areas, such as uh, China, but most of them have been coming from Italy. And there were a few people that came in from Iran. So we're most of our uh, cases have been coming from tourists that are coming home from
yeah,
their
yeah.
vacation.
Well, we have two international airports in Oklahoma. We have one in Oklahoma City and one in Tulsa, and they're big international. Uh,
Right,
but sometimes they divert through Dallas, DFW, or they go up through Denver International.
right,
So I think if we've got any, but we've just uh, I think some of ours are coming probably the same way, because the two biggest hit counties were Tulsa County and Oklahoma County,
right,
which is Oklahoma City and Tulsa.
right.
So, uh, yeah, but people have been, we've been pretty much, I don't know, we're, first off, uh, we're country folks, so we're kind of, we kind of have a little bit of common sense.
Yeah,
We say, and I don't know, maybe we're more resilient here because we are country. We have all sorts of critters out there in the world that can
right.
come at you. Or we're sort of like some places we're like the Australia of the United States.
Yeah, yeah, that's
They can go
true.
kill you out there.
Uh
But
huh.
yeah, it's we've been very fortunate. And an observation I made 2 weeks ago when I was following this, I noticed all the liberal states are getting hit the hardest.
Yes, that's true. And now Colorado is a blue state, sad.
Yeah, yeah. So it's just an observation. I did see today that I thought New York City had their first drop in the amount of deaths per day. So instead of going up, it's going down. But they also said that this could be seasonal if we don't get this under control.
Right,
It could
right.
reoccur
Hmm.
next year.
Yep. Well, and I think next year, when the flu season comes back, I think it won't be as severe because I think people will have developed an immunity, so to speak, to this virus, which will hopefully carry over to other forms of the flu.
Well, I think they're going to come up with a vaccine,
Yeah,
just like the flu vaccine. And I think, uh, they're already getting, antibodies from people who have recovered.
right.
So, uh, yeah, little liberal states are more populated.
Yeah,
That's true. They have
yeah,
the bigger, but they let everybody in,
that's true. That's true.
you know.
So, yeah, here people are pretty much uh, staying at home. Uh, we're not on total lockdown. People could still go outside and walk, exercise, even go fishing as long as there's, that 6 feet or more of distance, and then you're okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
I think
supposed to
that's the
be,
best way to handle it. But
yeah,
I still, if I go out, which I haven't gone out in about 4 days now, I
yeah,
still wear my mask. You
yeah,
know, good thing is about these is they are reusable.
yeah,
You just let them air out
yeah,
for about 4 days. The virus, if there's anything got, and the only way you're going to get this virus is somebody snots all over you,
yeah,
to put it
yeah,
bluntly, you know, uh, and stuff. My and that reminds me, my nose is itching too, uh,
yeah,
like I got to sneeze, but I don't have COVID-19, folks.
yeah. Well, I have what's called seasonal allergies.
Oh, I do
When
too.
because if you remember, we get those spring downslope winds, and they kick up a lot of dust and pollen, and also it's warming up, so things are starting to grow.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Everything's turning
ragweed
green
and
here.
pollen are getting kicked up, and
Yeah.
oh, I'm
Judy
feeling
usually gets
better
sick in the
today.
spring, and I
Huh?
get Judy usually gets sick in the spring from the allergies, and I get it in the fall because ragweed count in Oklahoma is much higher in the
Right,
fall here, you know. But
right,
in the
right.
springtime, it's just the other. Those tree pollen doesn't bother me too much, but yeah, I'm just checking the chat.
Yeah, Drone Life made a good point. Governor in Georgia issued a stay and shelter order, but opened the beaches on Saturday. Now, if those people are following the rules and keeping 6 feet apart, I don't have a problem with people going to the beach. I mean, because if you stayed up, cooped up inside, you're breathing that stale air. You gotta go outside and get some fresh air.
Yeah.
And now that it's starting to warm up outside, it's eventually going to kill this virus.
Well, I saw something yesterday. Or last night. I was kind of, you know, I've been following this on and off and paying, trying to pay attention to it. And I saw where a church decided to have service, and they went and they spent a small fortune putting in a filter system that will
Right,
filter the air. They brought in tons more chairs and spaced them apart so every parishioner was 6 foot apart,
right.
and they brought in people who wanted to come in and to a church service. And the sheriff in that county arrested the pastor for
Oh boy,
endangerment to citizens.
man.
It's like, and this was from Mike Huckabee. Of course, he says his church, they're doing it all through like what we're doing right here. They're broadcasting through the internet or
Right.
through uh vmix has a bunch of different, and there's other places that Wirecast has a setup too, where churches can go and rebroadcast all of their stuff to their churches
Yep.
and out you know so you know that was just uh they're just that was I think an overreaction, and I think that's going to land in the courts.
Yeah.
That's going to be a civil rights violation if anything else.
Mm.
you know
Yeah, I agree.
what and as uh uh yeah, like Steve says, most of the problem is most governors are using this for political purposes. Sunlight can kill the virus. They don't want
Uh,
it killed. They want to kill the economy. I've thought that for a long time. You know,
mm,
this was and now they're well. We were going to talk about that. I'll let you bring that up later about Nancy.
mm,
Uh, but yeah, this is just being uh, so much of it has gotten out of hand, and some people are you know I've talked with Greg the other night, and unfortunately, one of the observations somebody made is those people in the poorer sections of the country that don't have access to good health care and are predominantly on welfare are probably going to be the ones that'll be dying out.
Uh-huh.
And then you got all those people going to the beaches. Unfortunately, most of them will probably survive because you can't kill stupid.
Yeah, that's right. And also, somebody, I've heard this over before. People who've been vaping. That's why uh, you hear about younger people dying from this COVID-19. So I'm wondering if maybe there is correlation between vaping, just like smoking was the big thing back in our day.
Yeah. Well, there's, I think it depends, but there has been some correlation to uh, people getting pneumonia much more easier because of you know, that smoke has got liquid in it,
Yeah,
where the smoke that you get from cigarettes, it has the chemicals that are bad for you as well as the nicotine. The other one has liquid, and
right.
it's a wet smoke, and you're inhaling that wet smoke. And, you know, oh, hang on a second. I need to run and take care of Judy real quick.
All right.
All right.
Well, okay, we'll bring you right back. All right, so it looks like I'm solo for at least a few minutes, and we're waiting for Steve McGrew. Hopefully, he'll come in, and this could be a pretty interesting show. So while we're talking about this, hey Ray Kelly, good to see you. Thanks for coming in. Uh, So this kind of runs into our first topic of the day. We'll talk about Nancy Pelosi and her minions in the House want to start up another investigation. Yes, they want to investigate Trump on, oh, he's too slow on getting, the precautions to this pandemic that's going on. All right, looks like Lloyd is back. Welcome
Yeah.
back, Lloyd. So yeah, I started off the our first topic about Nancy Pelosi and her minions want to start up an investigation on Donald Trump over his handling of the COVID-19. So
Well, here's an observation that I can't take credit for it, but I can't remember who it was. I read it, but one of the problems was when this was first starting out, because when did this start? In December, actually, right?
yeah,
Over in China. Well, the president at that time was still dealing, and even earlier was dealing with the impeachment. All of
right.
his focus was on the impeachment because the Democrats were bound and determined to find something and, you know, make him responsible for it. And as anybody would do, uh, as any sitting president would do, they're going to deal with, because this was a constitutional battle. His focus all over the last year, last 2 years, 2, 3 years, 4 years have been on impeachment because that's what they've been after. And
Yep.
that's what he's been having to deal with. He's been doing a great job of also dealing with the economy, dealing with unemployment, uh, all of that stuff.
Yep.
But he still had that impeachment over there. At first, it was the Russia collusion, then it was the this, that, and another
Oh
thing.
yeah,
Anything, you know,
obstruction of Congress.
obstruction of Congress, which
Yeah.
was not a charge, because he hadn't obstructed them because they didn't go to the courts and go the proper way. But anyways,
Yep.
that's what the nation was focused on, and uh, at the same time, we got this little province over in China that's got this
Yeah.
virus that's popping up. And by the time it was, he was still dealing with, they had him dealing with that and
Right.
focusing on that and not being able to see. He's only one man. And they're, his whole administration was about trying to, you know, stay in office and keep the stuff that he was doing good for our country to keep working.
Right.
And the Democrats kept interfering time after time
Yep.
after time. Now they're wanting to impeach him for because the reason he didn't catch on to this was because he was dealing with their crap to begin with.
Yeah.
Nancy Pelosi needs to be impeached.
Unfortunately, they don't. We don't have that process for Congress or for the Senate. The only way they could be removed is if they were convicted of a
I think
felony and
treason.
a
I
misdemeanor.
think treason's a felony, and I think
Yeah,
she ought to be charged on it.
yeah.
It's my
I,
personal
I
opinion.
agree with that as well. Now, it was Donald
Yes.
Trump way back in February. He's the one that halted all the flights coming in and
Yeah.
from China.
And they called him racist for it.
Yeah, they called him racist for that. So I think no matter what the guy does, whether it's
Yeah.
good or bad, he's going to get hammered. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter.
Yeah. That's because that's just the way they are.
Uh,
They, and until this next election, we're going to recover from this, okay? And we may come back stronger. I think we're going to be doing things differently. We're going to be a lot more aware of what we're doing and paying attention to what's going on in other countries a little more. And I think going to become a little more isolationist. And I think it's going to be, because this was brought in from China.
yep.
Uh, Now, here's something, and I haven't seen it since, but I saw a little blurb pop up that the FBI in December arrested a Chinese national scientist that was bringing in three vials. One had MERS, one had SARS, and one had something else.
Right.
And he wanted them to be tested here. This
Uh,
was back in December, and they arrested him in the counter bioterrorism
sure.
uh, something or another.
Mhm.
Uh, Jumped on it, and I don't know what happened with all that, but
Right.
uh, it was brought. This was in December. It was coming from a Chinese national,
Hmm.
and I cannot remember where I read it at, but it was quite interesting. So they were aware of something going on in December, but they were still dealing with some of this crap of what Pelosi was doing and trying to get ready. I mean, they were right in the they December. They were still right in the middle of the impeachment hearings, weren't they?
Yep.
Because they did the that's right, because the impeachment wasn't he wasn't finally found not guilty until after the State of the Union, which was in
Yep.
January.
Yep.
So so in December when this was happening, he was focused on dealing with Nancy Pelosi and Pencil Neck Schiff and those idiots over in the House.
Yep.
And as any administration, if it had been Obama, he'd have been doing the same thing. He'd have been fighting for his job,
Yep.
because he'd filled his position. But, you know, Trump's not Obama, so Trump don't get a pass on anything.
Yep. That's right. And what
Oh, I got to
happened?
go again. I got to
All
go
right.
again.
Okay. So what happened to the Chinese doctor that blew the whistle on this virus? He's dead. He either died from the COVID-19 or the government took him out. So he's nowhere to be found. And so what's going to happen? And then on top of it, China has reopened the wet markets in China. in case you don't know what a wet market is, those are like uh, open air markets where they sell poultry, beef, and fish and vegetables. So those are opening up again. So I don't know what's going on there. That is just crazy, right, Lloyd?
Absolutely. I'm not sure what you're talking about, but let me make. I got to do a quick text message.
Okay,
Uh,
all right. I'll take you
to
off screen then.
okay, yeah,
So they're opening up wet markets again. I mean, what a great breeding ground for germs. They shouldn't open those up right now. They should wait a month or so and then open those up. I want to welcome Mike B, aka the Drone Ranger, and Rick Halbert to the show. Thank you guys. Let's see, how are we doing? Hey, we're up to 8 people. That's pretty darn good for this show. 9 people. Wow, amazing. Okay, so Lloyd, are you
yeah,
are
yeah,
you
yeah.
good now?
I think so. She's okay. First, I forgot my phone. Well, first off, I left there and the TV was too loud, so I had to turn down her speaker
Okay.
because it was in here because it was playing. Uh, now I can't turn that up either, so I'm gonna have to watch that. So, anyways, and she's on the phone with her cousin. Two old women talking about whatever old women talk about. And then my cousin called me on my phone, and the phone was too loud, and she's yelling at me. It's just man, I need to get out of that house.
Yeah. Well, I checked the weather here in Denver, and it looks like we're going to have about 3 or 4 days uh, of really warm weather. So it'll be nice to get out of the house and do some fishing. Uh, Carlos, we already talked about that issue. So you know that's beating a dead horse. So we can't uh, worry about the $22 trillion debt. Right now, we're in a state of emergency where we got to deal with this virus pandemic and a possible collapse of our economy. So if the
Yeah,
country goes toes up because we go into a depression, that $22 trillion debt is not going to mean a hill of beans.
no,
Sorry.
it's not because who's going to collect the money from us? China. They're going to have to pay retribution. The world's going to insist they pay retribution for this virus. That's going to end a lot of these deficits where we're borrowing money from like China and other countries.
Yep.
Yeah, that's you know a lot of that's going to disappear because it's just going to. I've been calling this for a couple of weeks now the Great Reset. It's going to reset every country in the world
Yeah, I think so.
economically, health wise, the way we interact with people.
Right.
Countries are going to start becoming a little more isolationist, at least if they're smart.
Mhm.
Uh, so, what what was important, Carlos, 4 weeks ago, 5 weeks ago, 10 weeks ago? They're not the same now.
Yep. Uh, my observation, at least for the company I work for, it's a dental manufacturing company. And right now, the reason the company is closed is we don't have any orders coming in.
Yeah,
Why? All because 60% of our income comes from foreign uh, dealers,
yeah,
and they're not ordering products because they're closed over there, and so there's no work, and plus there's no we can't ship our product. All the stuff that we have sitting in the shipping is sitting there because our customers can't pick it up.
Yeah.
Because we could ship it out there, but it'll stay at the post office.
Yeah. Well,
So
it's a worldwide. See, this is like the. I think this is very close in respect. The economies haven't collapsed yet, but it's very close to what happened in 29, where
yeah,
the world had a collapse, economic collapse.
yeah,
With the crash of the stock market. That that was, and they've put in. That's the only good thing is that after that they put in some rules and regulations that
right,
keep it. And then after what was it, 1988, when they had that big collapse, Black
yeah,
Friday in '88.
yep,
Yeah, I still kick myself over that. I had investments at the time, and a lot of my stock that was being bought is being bought by Walmart. And this was a 10-year investment program. I would have been fully vetted after 10 years,
right,
and a good portion of that was Walmart stock. That was in '88. I called him up and I said, I want my money. You know,
right,
when Sam Walton stood up there and says, "Yeah, it's only paper," you know, I thought that takes me off. So I that
hmm
t- I would have been fully vetted. I'd have over $350 million in stocks now if I instead I'm just getting by. You
yeah,
know the Because within the year, all those stocks split 4 times.
yep. And I think this is one of the things the Democrats are hoping would happen
Yeah,
is a total collapse of the economy. So they think, oh well, we'll blame Trump and the Republicans, and we'll be right back in. I think what's going to happen is after we get out from under this cloud that we're in, I think we're going to see a resurgence in production and the stock market. I think it's going to go well past 30,000,
yeah, yeah,
and the Democrats are going to have egg on their face. I think coming November, when this economy and dogs barking are roaring back, will the Democrats won't know what to do. They'll be in a real tough spot. Uh, it all depends on what happens between now and November. Uh,
yeah. It's There's a lot that can happen. We've got to get the nation back working.
yep.
But here's something. Uh, One of the things I see that has been a problem with this country, and of course, we have to be able to sell overseas, but our primary customers shouldn't be all overseas, because when they have problems, then it backs up into us.
Yep.
And so we've got to have a balance between overseas sales and production. Actually, we could sell overseas. That's not the problem. A lot of problem is some of our companies are doing all their production outside of the country and then importing it and then reselling it.
Right.
Just like DJI. You know, uh, or like let's let's do better. The FPV guys, all of their parts are coming from China. You know,
Yep.
or Indonesia. We need to start making stuff in the United States to be sent
Yep.
overseas, not the other way around.
Yep.
You know,
Mhm.
even if
Especially our pharmaceutical and medical supplies.
exactly, exactly.
The
You
company
know,
I work for, we're a dental manufacturing company. We do it all here in the United States. We don't import our stainless steel from China. It's all from either this country or from Europe because we use a specialized stainless steel that's that's not prone to allergies because there are
right?
a lot of people out there that have allergies to
Yeah,
nickel.
Yeah, exactly.
Nickel is used in the making of stainless steel. So we use other alloys in our metals.
Right.
So they're virtually allergy proof.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, she's right there by that speaker. So I have to mute her. Then she gets mad at me because I can't hear her. Well, uh, yeah, we have to have less foreign dependence. We need to quit making stuff overseas. And when I say overseas, I'm talking not necessarily overseas, but out of country, like Canada or Mexico. You
Mhm.
know, it's we've got to one start innovating. We've got to start producing. We've got to start building from the bottom up. And because otherwise, we're going to be back the next pandemic that comes along because there's going to be another one.
Yep.
10 years down the road, 5 years down the road, who knows? Because
Mhm.
China's not going to change their way. They're going to have those wet markets. If we're bringing this crap in from China, well, then, or they're not going to do anything. And that's something else that ticks me off. They got on the panel for a human rights violation
Oh
with the
boy.
UN. Yeah, they got put on the panel to the 5 member panel that oversees human rights violations. Really?
Yeah.
That's another thing we need to get rid of. The UN can go. They're of no use. What
Yep.
they're not helping them.
Yep. Kick them out of New York if
Yeah.
they want. Keep their precious little club. Do it over there at the Hague, and then we could take that
Move it to
valuable
Mexico.
property
It'll help their
down there.
economy and they'll stay out of our country.
Yeah. There we go. Let those people deal with the ambassadors with the uh, sexual depravity
Yeah,
over there.
exactly. Yeah, we need to bring manufacturing back home along with the innovation of new products because
Yeah,
we have not done anything innovative in so many years. I mean, the closest we can say we're doing is like, let's say Skydio.
right,
But that's just, of course, that's what science is always borrowing, you know, everybody has a theory of how something should work, and then you take that theory and develop it into something that's a workable
right.
feature, and
Well,
that's what they've done. But they're still getting their parts from overseas.
part of the problem that we have building stuff here is number one, unions
Yeah, forget.
and regulations.
Yeah,
Regulations is what's stifling the growth of manufacturing here in the United States. They make it's the regulations that add to the cost of the goods to where people don't want to make anything here. It's cheaper to go over to China or Vietnam or Indonesia or Bangladesh to make our products over there, then bring them back over here where they're they cost less and the consumers have the disposable income to buy those products.
yeah. I I wrote something. I forgot where it was at. I wrote it in, uh, or it may have been on one of my own videos. I brought that up, and somebody says, but and I think it had to do with somebody else's video. I said, that we need to start manufacturing here and stuff. And it says, and this person wrote, says, but we can't compete with like China because they only pay their people 14 cents a day.
Yeah.
People won't work for that money. And I haven't replied to him because I want to think it out, but let me give you an example.
Okay.
Okay, so they say they pay 14 cents a day. Okay, that's probably true. Because they actually use their convicts to do a lot of their work. There's an idea. How about instead of our convicts getting, 70-inch TV screens in their rec room, they work for a living.
Yep.
Let's set up some manufacturing at the prisons that they can do. But anyways, uh,
Yeah. Remember when they used to make license plates?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. They learned a skill that way that when they get out of prison, they've got a skill that they could use right away.
Yeah.
Maybe
Well, they
teach.
could they could work for some of these tool and die companies that cut out stuff, in metal. That's
There you go. There you
and but one of the things that where to me that argument fell flat is, and this will affect everybody here. We have a paper mill right here in
right.
Oklahoma. Well, actually, right on the other end of town. We have two of them. We have a Georgia Pacific and a Kimberly Clark is up
Right.
in Tulsa. Georgia Pacific, which used to be Fort Howard. You go into a lot of the bathrooms, you'll see those metal things that you pull your paper towels from. The,
Yep.
the ones that still have them, they'll either say GP or Fort Howard on them. Because
Uh-huh.
they've been, and they provide the paper towels for that, and they also provide the bathroom tissue.
Right.
And these are companies that are making paper products, and it's being sold here in the United States under, Continental, Charmin,
Right. Hmm.
name, name off of toilet paper, and one of these two companies are probably the ones making it,
Yep.
you know, and they're making a profit,
Yes.
and we're still buying toilet paper. It's not a roll of toilet paper doesn't cost uh, more than an automobile. I mean, we're buying it. Yeah, it's a little pricey sometimes, depending on what blend you get,
Yep.
but they're making it. Do you know what those guys make out there?
$20 an hour.
$24 an hour
Wow.
flat rate.
That was close.
Then they get paid triple time and holiday time on top of
Wow.
all that. I've my friend, I won't mention his name. We've been friends for years. He's worked out there. His dad retired from there. They don't have an overturn. People are waiting for somebody to die to get a job out there because they're paying. Well, I say $24 an hour. That's what he was getting 10 years ago. I don't know what he's getting now,
Wow.
and he still gets. And because they do a what's called a rotating seven out
Right.
of a 28 day period, they have 14 days off,
Wow.
7 in a row.
Wow.
So full benefits, retirement package, everything. And yet these companies, they're not paying them that kind of money uh, just to make toilet paper and not make a profit, because they're certainly making a profit. So if we can pay these guys that, to make toilet paper, why can't we pay our other people that?
Uh-huh.
And yeah, it is a supply and demand,
Hmm.
but and here's the other thing: they aren't union,
Oh.
no union.
Hmm.
They got smart in the very early start of this,
Hmm.
and they said we're going to pay workable wages that we can survive on, uh, and that they can live on, and we can still make a profit, because there's profit sharing in this too. That means that people working there,
Uh-huh.
they've got to make a profit or they don't get anything on their profit sharing.
Yeah,
So,
that's right. That's
and
right.
yet there's still uh, this friend of mine. His dad retired from there after 30 years. He's been out there at God close to 30 years now himself, and will probably be retiring in the next 2 years.
Wow.
Well, he may. Let's see. Let me see. God, he may retire this year.
Oh.
I just adding up his time,
Uh-huh.
and uh, that's a company that's they saw the way to keep the union out was to pay fair wages, and but I mean, there is a funny side to all this at the end. He texted me the other day and was talking about what was going on, and I said, "Hey, he's an essential worker because they're making toilet paper," and I said, "So are they checking your lunch boxes that you're not smuggling out rolls of toilet paper like they do the diamond mines?"
Yeah.
He
Yep.
said they had what's called a tailgate meeting because they try to keep everybody spaced out, you know. And he asked one of the supervisors, says, "So you're going to start checking our lunch boxes for toilet papers?" He said the supervisor stared really hard into his face. He said, I was just joking. He looked at me. He says, yes, it's a very distinct possibility.
Mhm. Oh boy. Wow. Well, and this leads into another really good topic. We were talking about regulations, and I was watching one of my favorite fishing channels. Uh, he did a live stream last night, and he got into talking about conservation and how the Republican Party was the party that started the whole conservation movement a little over 100 years ago. You know, starting with Theodore Roosevelt and how they looked at it as, hey, we're depleting our resource. We need to do something about this to put limits on, the size of the catch and how many you could keep, uh, catch and release only. And then there was another group, the Democrats, instead of conserving our resources, they said, "Oh, well, you know what? We'll replenish the stock with fish from outside our country." So that's how we got carp introduced to our country. Uh, Brown trout and rainbow trout. Those are not native to North
Right.
America. And so we got a little bit of that, and everything got messed up. And then he went on a rant about, well, there's no more funding for wildlife conservation, and he started dinging on the current administration about rolling back some of the pollution protections, such as clean water. And I didn't want to get into an argument on his live stream, but he's from Philadelphia. Actually, he's from Brazil. He grew up in Brazil. His parents are Chinese, and he grew up in Brazil, came to the United States when he was a little boy, and then he went to school in Philadelphia. He went to Temple University. And I go, well, that's because he's being indoctrinated in liberal dogma
Yeah.
about, who's the party that's big on conservation. Well, part of the reason why there's no money for wildlife conservation is because a lot of the states where the Democrats took over control, they took away all that money for their pet projects, their feel good projects, like their daycare and needle exchange programs and teachers unions pensions. They want to keep the pensions going. So that's where all that money is going for. It's not because Republicans don't want to spend money on that. It's because uh, we've got people in the Democrat Party that are taking away a lot of the money that's in the general fund that's supposed to go to roads and infrastructure and police and important stuff. No, it's going into the pension funds for states that have public employee pension funds. Here in Colorado, we have what's called para, and a lot of people that are in para are teachers. That's the big bulk of it. But also, anybody who works for the state of Colorado and the state legislature is part of para. And that's gold-plated benefits package where if after, I think it's after 30 years, you get something like 80% of your highest paid salary for your pension. And then
Wow.
plus, all that pension money is going into investments where they overpromise the growth of the fund.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's why a lot of these pensions are underfunded right now. So I think Leo is not seeing the whole big picture because he doesn't follow politics like I do. And I know what's going on and where that money is going for. He's never heard of the term uh, watermelon babies. You've heard of that term? Green on the outside, red on the inside.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's what happened to the environmental movement. It got hijacked by extreme uh, liberal socialists
Socialist. Yeah.
to
Yeah. Yeah.
push their agenda masquerading as do-gooders for the environment. And what they do
Well, yeah,
is
in countries like Australia, they talk about the Greens. They look at the Greens the same way they look at labor and the same way they look at the socialist and the communist. They're all the same thing.
that's right. And what they do
And
is
same in England too,
if
or
they
the
get a
UK.
hold of people in office, they'll enact these regulations that stifle business, and that there's the problem with like your fishing license. Why your fishing license is so expensive because it's all this bureaucracy that goes into it that's increasing the cost to have a wildlife program.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
and also another point that I wanted to make, and then it just kind of my squirrel moment. It is, yeah, the regulations. Yeah, or stifling. Oh, for example, like the clean water regulations. Trump uh, relaxed those a little bit. You know what? If you took a test of the water quality, the difference is going to be so insignificant, it won't matter. Because what Democrats want to do is they want to increase the purity of the water, taking more arsenic out of the water, so to say. But what that does is that adds cost to the price of water and for manufacturing. But that water is going to be not going to be a whole lot clean. It's the difference is going to be so tiny. It's it's really
Um,
not going to mean anything.
they put a, they're trying to filter this stuff out, but they're replacing it with other stuff, fluoride and not and or chlorine. Oh my God, I can tell when we've had, you know, uh, like when there's an excess amount of rain, which we've had a lot of in Oklahoma this last year,
Yep,
been going on a year now. We went 4 years with a drought. We've had, we're starting our second year of a wet year. And this last year was just unbelievable with the flooding. And we're already, our rivers are way up. And just this time last year, we were getting ready to head into the flood season. And that's where we're at again. But when they have to over chlorinate the water, and when you can turn on the sink and you can actually have your nose hairs start to,
yeah,
like when you open a bottle of bleach and your eyes water, like when you turn on turn on
the
your
faucet.
sink, the faucet. Yeah, thank you. My squirrel moment. When you turn on the faucet and pour a glass of water, and it's that strong, there's something wrong with that. That's not natural.
Yep.
you
Hmm.
know
Yeah, and the reason why they do that is because the water may have organisms that
Yeah.
are swimming around in that water, and you gotta use the chlorine to kill it.
Well, yeah, and that's it. And that's like I said, it's been excessive flooding, and in like last year, the sewer plant that we thought we were, there's another an example of a scare uh, about last year's flooding. Well, I did a video where when I'm live streaming, standing, or where I recorded standing in Walmart waiting for water because they told us the water plant was about to be flooded out. We were going to lose our water.
Right?
That never happened.
Mm-hmm.
But what did happen was the sewer plant got flooded and shut down,
Yeah.
and they ended up dumping raw sewage right into our main water source, which was the Arkansas River.
Yep. Mm-hmm. But
Yeah,
I want to say
we had
hi
a
to
lot of
oh,
chlorine in the
oh,
water then.
yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah, and that's what's going on, you know. Yeah.
It's yeah,
So,
it's
so
always something.
yeah, so I was watching, Leo's live stream last night, and that, after he said all that stuff, and he was really trying not to make it a political thing. Like, the hair on the back of my neck was starting to stand up, and I get, oh, I know where this is going. Whenever someone says I don't want to be political, they're going
Yeah,
to be political. You know?
just so everybody knows, this channel it is political.
Yes, that's right. We
Yeah,
talk about conservative ideas, and that's what this is all about. So let's go into our last topic. The last few days, this past week, I've been seeing a lot of reports that Philippine President Duterte has issued shoot to kill orders for people violating quarantine. And then I looked at the source, and it's either CBS News or Yahoo News. And then right away, I knew what this was all about. It's about making the president of the Philippines look bad by saying, "Well, look at this guy. He wants to kill people if they're outside their house." That is not what he said. What he said was anyone who is caught looting, burning, or destroying property,
right.
those people be shot, not people that are outside breaking quarantine. He's what he's trying to do is he's trying to stop people who want to create mayhem during this crisis.
Yeah, I actually talked to Greg about this, because he's got family in the
Yeah,
Philippines, and he said one of the things about this president is he doesn't mess around,
yep,
you know, and he brought up what was it that they had here? I think it had to do with their I don't know, drug dealers or something.
yep,
He decided it was time, or maybe it was some of the fundamentalist Islamists that were
yeah,
causing problems,
yep,
and he just decided to take care of it.
yep,
He just shot him.
yep,
Why waste the time? Because y- you know, there's he's not going to. First off, there'd be an overthrow of that country if he was going to go out and shoot everybody for stepping outside their house.
right. Hmm.
Or somebody, the United States would step in and say, you know, uh, ain't going to happen. But
Yeah, that's
but yeah, it's he doesn't mess around. The sad thing is, and this is what we talked, Greg and I talked about last night, is a lot of these countries, people are worried about their healthcare facilities being overloaded because they don't, when the virus gets really heavy over there,
Yep.
it was overloaded before it started.
Yep.
So a lot of these countries are going to be emptied out with this virus. A lot of
Yep.
these third
That's
world
true.
countries, and that's just a fact of life. But and this guy, they're very. That's the other thing. Uh, Property is passed from family to family.
Yeah.
When one member dies, it's divided up amongst his kids, and
Hmm.
if it was, let's say it was his parents' property, well then his share will go to his kids, but it's still grouply owned by the whole family, and it just passes down from generation to generation, you know. And the best you can do as an outsider is either you marry somebody from the Philippines or you lease it from them, you know,
Right.
on a
Mhm.
long-term lease, like a 99-year lease,
Yep.
and because so if people are looting or stuff like that, I don't think he's going to have to. He that's why he's doing that, because property in the Philippines is part of the family heritage.
Yep.
You know,
That's true.
and it's I didn't know that. And
Yep.
we're not that way because shoot, the government can come in and say, what is that law?
Oh, civil forfeit act.
Yeah, or the domain, something,
Oh, eminent domain.
eminent domain. I couldn't think of it. Eminent. Yeah. Uh, yeah. Eminent domain is, uh, so we own our property, but do we own the water rights underneath? Do we own yeah,
Yeah.
what do we
Well,
actually own? We don't even own we don't officially in the United States own the air above our property. That belongs to the government.
yep. That's
It's
right.
controlled by the government, which those of us that are droners know all that.
Yep. Well, I have a lot of friends in the Philippines, and I talk to them about this. I go, what is this? Is this all true? And they said, no, it's not true. It's over. It's false news,
Yeah,
and I kind of figured that's what it was all about. To where, like you said, you know, property is handed down from family to family, and the only uh, the only place where it gets complicated is okay. So if one family decides to sell some land to another family member, and they give them kind of a phony deed, and they take that person's money, it's going to take them years to go through the courts to
yeah,
get all that straightened out. So,
yeah,
and I've seen some of that happening with some of my friends out there in the Philippines, where you know their dad bought some property from, I guess, his sister, and now that he's gone, his kids inherit the property, and they're trying to get the property. And when they went to get the deed, they showed them the paper from that their dad left them. And they said, "Well, sorry, the dates are wrong,"
yeah,
and and so they got to go through, and
yeah,
that costs money.
yeah. And they don't have that kind of money,
Yeah,
and
and it takes years
yeah,
for it to get all
I
resolved.
know
And
Greg was
the reason
discussing
it
something like,
takes that long
yeah,
is because the lawyers, they want to keep it dragging on because that's how they get their money.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Well, that's what our lawyers do.
Mhm. Yep.
As it, they believe in they're the first industry that believes in a perpetual paycheck.
Yeah.
You know,
Mhm.
yeah, it's Greg's. I know his family went through some of that, and they just had that uncle die, and you know, there's even some. I think they had to do a property swap because they built the house in the hotel over there, which belonged to uh, uh,
One of the cousins.
well, it didn't belong to one of the cousins. One of the cousins thought it did, and then they took him
Oh,
to court for the land under the house,
right.
and they got it straightened out. But it was one of those situations where they, oh no, and when the uncle died, well, it turns out they've got to split that differently than they thought
Yeah.
too, because he just had that uncle that was killed, uh, on a motorcycle.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Uh,
yeah, it's a as we used to say in the service, it's a real Charlie Foxtrot.
yeah. Oh, and you'll see in the Philippines, you'll see a high rise start getting built up, and then all of a sudden they stop work on the high rise because they found out that the people that built that high rise or that building on that property didn't have the deed to that property because
Yeah,
there was a screw up in the deed. So what'll end up happening, because a lot of these will be uh, people from China or South Korea who are want to invest in the Philippines. They just they just leave the building there and they just, oh well, we'll chalk it up as a loss
yeah,
and
it's
move
a tax
on.
write-off. Yeah,
That's what happened in on the island of Mindoro, where I went on vacation back in 17. They somebody started work on a hotel that was going to have a casino, and it was mostly built. I mean, it wasn't finished or anything. They just stopped work on it because they found out later that there was an issue with the deed to the property. So instead of finishing the property or the building, they just said, "Oh, we're not going to mess with the fight with the lawyers. We're just going to, you know, leave it and chalk it up as a loss."
yeah, and and that kind of thing doesn't happen just because we're talking about the Philippines right now, but that kind of thing doesn't happen just in the Philippines. It actually has happened here in Oklahoma. My let me see if I can put this right. Judy's grandmother had a piece of property about a half a block from her house
Right.
that she had invested in with the money that she got from when her first husband passed away. Well, when her when she remarried years later, she married a man and she put his name on the title with
Oh
hers.
boy.
Well, then he passed away. Okay, no big deal. Still, her name was on the title. Uh,
But his
but
kids wanted it.
he had stepkids. Well, it wasn't that they really cared or knew anything, they because she'd bought it all. She showed where she had bought it all. So they just kind of let it go. Well, then Judy's grandmother, my cousin lived the next block down from them, and his mother lived right next door to Judy's grandmother. So he ended up buying this property from Judy's grandmother when she moved up to be where Judy's folks are because she was getting older and needed somebody to help take
Right.
care of her. So when my aunt died, my dad and mom came down here for his sister's funeral. And my cousin says, I got this piece of property right around the corner you might want to look at for investment. So dad says, yeah, why not? So dad buys the property. Well, then dad gets a wild hair, says, he tells somebody, this is when they lived in Grand Junction. He says, hey, if somebody offered me 44,000 for this house, I'd sell it right now. Kid walked up and says, this is when oil shale first hit the first time in Grand Junction
Yeah.
back in late 70s, early 80s.
Yep.
Okay.
I remember
He
that.
says, here you go. And he's like, crap. I said I'd do it. And he just, so my mom and dad moved down here. They actually move in with my cousin. Now I've got another cousin who is in construction and a house builder.
Hmm.
And he says, I'll build a house for you and keep it down to just the minimum. And he got started on it, and of course they had to level the land because it kind of sloped downhill, so they
Right?
had to bring in a lot of fill
Yeah.
and build up the foundation real high. And he got started on it, and then all of a sudden he went to look at it because he had to get a construction loan. They looked at the deed, and there was one thing they'd forgot. They'd forgot to notify Judy's grandmother's or her step grandfather's family so
Oh,
they could clear the deed.
right.
So the deed wasn't clear. Well, my dad and mom weren't stupid. They said we get a guaranteed deed. They went to my cousin and says the cousin that they bought it from and says, we want you to sign right here that you'll give us a guaranteed deed so that he can go back to building the house. Well, they built the house. In the meantime, I moved down here,
Hmm.
and I came in one day. I was working down here, and I was still living with the folks. It's when I got
Right.
divorced before I married Judy, and they had to go to the lawyer's office,
Mm.
and mom and dad took the paper with them. And my cousin says, yeah, we got it all taken care of. They had to put a notice in the newspaper for 3 weeks to anybody who's belong who's an heir to this guy, speak up now or forever hold your peace type thing.
Right.
So they went to court or went to the lawyer's office, and they said, well, you're going to have to pay an extra $2,000 because that's your half of all the deed stuff. And my mother just says, I don't think so. Puts the guarantee on there. Lawyer looks at my cousin and says, I guess you owe me $2,000. He signed the deed, wrote the lawyer the check, and so that's how it can get screwed up in a family. This is my wife's grandmother and
Yeah.
sold to my cousin. Another cousin built the house, and then it's just like
Yeah.
so. Yeah, that kind of crap happens in Oklahoma too, not just the Philippines.
Yeah. Hmm. That's why if you're gonna build a home in the Philippines, always make sure that the deed is legit
Yeah,
and there's nothing that's gonna hang up. Uh, the safest thing to do is if you're going. The only way I could buy property is if I'm married to a Filipina. Uh, what I would do is I would buy a lot in a gated community,
yeah,
and a lot of those places, the lot size varies
right.
from either 100 square meters to maybe 750 square meters. Um, I would like the 750 square meters because that gives you a yard to work with where you could, kind of, you could have some fruits and vegetables. You can have a little garden there. And if you do that, then your taxes come down because it's called a farming lot.
Yeah, yeah,
So and that's what I would do. 100 square meters, that's just big enough to build a modest sized house, and you might have maybe a meter or two around the perimeter of the house. So that, yeah, I think that's what my girlfriend has. I think she's got a tiny backyard. She's raising turkeys and ducks. Oh boy, I
yeah,
told boy, you got a zoo going on there.
yeah. Well, believe it or not, I live in the city, and we got a neighbor. Well, right behind or right next door to me is my son's house, but two down from him, somebody's raising chickens there, and
Oh
all I can say is we've been fighting mice and rats around here,
yeah,
uh, terribly for the last couple of years since they moved in. So
yeah.
'cause they like to raid those chicken coops,
Oh yeah, yeah.
they live in them, and then then they can. So
Three.
whenever they clean out the chicken coop like they're supposed to, but I mean I live in a city. I I can't remember. Well,
Well, that's really good for your grass.
Yeah. But
Or if you want to grow vegetables, that's really good fertilizer.
yeah, it is. But I just do not have them in the city or deal with the rats and stuff, but
Right.
or the mice. But
Yeah.
yeah, I was going to say I didn't have to put up with that in Denver, but actually, uh, they're on 76th Street on uh, that at the end. Well, on the let's see which would let's see that's the west. Let's see, east would have been on the south.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would have been the south side of 76th Street,
Right.
uh, just next to the Boulder Turnpike or
Oh, okay.
Boulder Toll Road, right next to it. Between the Boulder Toll Road and 76th Street, there was a farm all the way down through there,
Oh, yeah.
and we used to mow our yard and uh, uh,
Dump the
load
clip.
the grass, dump the grass up over the. We'd go down, drive down there. That's where I learned to drive. Dad let me drive the pickup truck down to the end of the street to dump the grass.
Yeah. Hmm.
But now that's all. They started building in there probably about 69. They
Yeah.
started building there.
Yeah.
They sold out that farm. But yeah, there was a farm there in the middle of Denver,
Yeah.
which I'd forgot about that. I was thinking,
Yeah.
man, there's, yeah, but
I
no, there were
know
horses there.
where that is. That's like a barrier between the property and
Hmm.
the freeway, and
Yeah,
it goes
yeah,
all the way along the US 36 there. Yep.
yeah, yeah. Right
All
over there,
right. So
76 and Zunai.
yeah, we've done about an hour and a quarter,
We have,
and
haven't we?
so we covered a lot of ground today. So I want to thank all you folks in the chat for coming to the show. Um, we'll bring it back next time, and hopefully we'll get Steve McGrew on here, and it'll be a fun show. So
Yeah, I look forward to that. Yeah, and they've had a good, lively conversation and a lot of good points brought up in the chat. And
mhm.
uh,
Yep,
appreciate Jaybird, Steve Carpenter, Back from the Sky.
yep,
They were really exchanging a lot of good stuff. And let's see, Chris Hope dropped in,
yep.
and yeah. So,
Oh, and Bill from Coast to Coast dropped in for a
oh,
second.
did he? Okay, I missed that. I missed that.
So I
And
want to
Rick
thank
Halber was
everybody
cooking. He
for
said,
coming to the show. And oh, and Ray Kelly jumped in.
"Oh, did he? Okay, I missed him. I usually catch him when he comes in." So, yeah.
So everybody, thank you for coming in. God bless this great country, United States, and God bless the great state of Colorado. Lloyd, you have a great afternoon, and we'll catch you tonight on
Yeah,
Mel's.
on Mel's show. And hopefully I'll have a show tomorrow.
Yeah. All right. Take care, everybody. Bye bye.